So this is the first part of this meeting that we have around next school year, 2016, 2017, and beyond. For better or for worse, this is the only cute image I have in the entire thing. It just was too easy of a connection to make to Buzz Lightyear for me to resist. This is really mostly 2016, 2017. The beyond is getting to some ideas that I'm not going to talk about now, but are going to be part of the meeting on Tuesday, so I wanted to put that idea in there. So really most of this actual little video is about parts 1 and 2, so personnel, and then some schedule changes and some ideas in the master schedule that it's really important that everyone knows now rather than waiting until August. So personnel, I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there. Some folks who are going, Ms. Roller, Ms. Hart, and Ms. Oliver. I know different people, many people knew all three are leaving. Some people might be just hearing this for the first time. All three teachers have been really great about communicating proactively, and so I do thank the three of them, not just for their service to our children, which has really been exceptional, but also for being really forthright in communicating about the reasons why they're going and their plans, and making it easy for us to try to plan to replace them, which has been challenging, but we are working on some different options. You have probably already looked down to the faculty changing, which is also probably some of this might be new information too. Mr. Flemister is returning to 7th grade history. Again, considering that his favorite movie in the world is The Alamo, this I think is a fitting. That's just one of many reasons why this seems like a fitting change. It made an opening in the 8th grade history position, and Mr. Klusman has been really eager to be getting into our history department. It's a challenging position, and he is ready for that challenge, and so Mr. Klusman will become our new 8th grade history teacher. And Mr. Sangweza is going to continue on in his relay residency, but actually change content areas, which makes sense because otherwise we wouldn't have had a role for him in the English department. And so he's going to be teaching 8th grade math, technically more 8th grade algebra. I just put math to make reference to the department that he's joining. I also wanted to take a second and just note the number of teams that are not changing, because I think it can be easy to I feel sad when I look at the list of people leaving, but just to make a note about what isn't changing. So our entire science department, our entire English department, our entire 5th grade team and 6th grade team, our special needs department, and our office staff and our leadership staff, none of those people are going. And I do want to just take a moment to note how exceptional that is. It's just not common to find that many teams staying intact, and it makes me really excited to be able to really move forward and work next year when you don't have to take the time with onboarding and some of the other things that can slow you down in starting a new school year. So those are the major personnel changes inside of our school, but there are some personnel changes in KIPP Houston that I need you guys to be aware of too, for a couple of reasons. So this is a general bigger picture structure for what things look like once you kind of move beyond our school and look to the larger leadership structure. So you have school leaders report to heads of school. The heads of school will be reporting to a chief academic officer, and that person will be reporting to the superintendent. I have the big red circle around it because that is relatively new at this point. It's really the last couple of months, and I haven't really mentioned it because it hasn't had a very direct impact on our lives at school. It is going to have a little more of an impact, and that's moving forward, and that's why I wanted to make sure to note that here. So that person is Daphne Carter. Daphne Carter has been a head of school for years now, and now she's moving from the head of school's role to the chief academic officer role. And so now my boss, Ken Gedeke, who's the head of school, will be reporting to her, and I will continue reporting to Ken. One of the reasons I'm making sure that everyone knows that is that in her role as a chief academic officer, Daphne is very passionate about trying to improve the general state of academics, trying to improve regional professional development, and so a lot of the changes that you'll see from a regional perspective are really being driven by Daphne. And just I thought that's some context that might help you understand if you're wondering why certain things are changing. It's because they put a new person in that role who definitely has some ideas about some things that she thinks will make the region better. Okay, so I'm going to keep it moving now into the schedule changes for 2016-2017. One major idea that you're going to hear me talk more and more about moving forward is the idea of more of a focus on flexible grouping time. There are not many changes happening in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade schedules going into next year. But the one thing that I really do hope that we will, that I'm going to ask that we pay more attention to, and in 7th and 8th grade it actually is more minutes, in 6th grade it's kind of the same number of minutes, but thinking about how we can be more intentional with them, is by increasing the number of minutes, the percentage of time that we spend in flexible grouping. Right now, we're pretty much, as you can see, the set group. So for example, an F group or an S group, or even just a first period English class, a second period science class, and so on, we spend almost all of our time in those groups. The groups that we set now, that we set months before the school year starts, and those groups are good. I'm not saying that those groups should go away. I'm not even saying that we should spend the vast majority of time in those groups. But I would like us to think about how we spend more time in flexible grouping, not just 20 minutes a week in tutorials, but really more time every week. Because that flexible grouping just gives us more options. And not only just the options in terms of students who are maybe a little stronger readers or students who are struggling more in math, but students with different interests who might be reading different books in their English classes, or just a lot of opportunities to be meeting kids where they're at and giving them more individualized and differentiated learning opportunities. So those are the bigger picture changes, and the actual schedules. I'm getting at the schedules already. By the time you are seeing this, hopefully you'll already seen the schedules for your actual grade level. The other, with 5th grade is going to be a different level of changes going to their schedule, and I need to flag that a major reason why is that we're going to have 109 students going into 5th grade. That is a decision that was beyond my pay grade. Now we are taking any students who are zoned to our school from Shine, or who have a sibling on our campus, will be coming to our campus. In the past, we've been able to tell Shine that we're only going to take 97, 98, 99 kids. We do not have that decision-making power any longer. So we'll be taking whatever students are zoned to our school. This year, that's about 107. There are a couple of other transfer students and students who, for different reasons, are added in. So it's 109 total. That necessitates a slightly different kind of schedule. We can't just put them in 3 F groups. I didn't want to just go ahead and make 4 F groups. I thought there were some different creative and effective things we can do in our schedule. The teachers have been really awesome about thinking through those different ways of just setting up our master schedule, and we're excited to try some different things, and more information on that to come in the future. The last major thing I need to note is about content team meetings, and this, before I even do that, I want to actually get into the larger picture of what our master schedule is going to be. So let me take us over there. Okay. So this is the master schedule requirements that were given to school leaders. I'm going to be quickly going through these things. Feel free to pause it, if you really want to look it over more yourself. But a major requirement that they're giving to all schools is that all schools have to be meeting in content teams at least 2 times per week, and they're saying a 45-minute minimum. I'm going to be clear, this is a directive coming to me. There are some things that I'm excited about it, but at the same time I'm making clear this isn't an idea that I'm bringing into the school. This is something that's being handed down to me, and I don't have really much decision-making power about. So those content team meetings are going to be a little bit complicated. We don't have a lot of time built into our schedule for that to happen. I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to make it work. And that we can make it work without taking away much planning time, but that is going to be a change. Now, how we define content meetings, I think, can change. It is predominantly going to be department meetings, and so one thing I do need for people to be aware of is that means that we will be having at least one pretty short department meeting each week, and that those department meetings are going to really be predominantly focused on looking at student work and planning with each other. So one reason I emphasize that, it's not like we're introducing new initiatives or new things every week that department chairs are going to, department chairs have no interest in doing that. Really, if we're going to be spending more time together, the most effective way we can use that time is to talk about planning, talk about the execution, and then look at the work that came out of that. And that's what we'll be using that time for. So feel free, like I said, to pause and look at the other details. When you look at the other non-negotiables for all schools, one thing you notice is how, I do think, which stands out to me, is how we're a little bit beyond some of these requirements. So 3 to 4 writing samples per school year. Ideally, we have that per quarter, right, in a lot of our classes. And so I think we're in a good place. Also see down here where it says teacher planning time, at least 90 minutes per week. It gives you a sense of what it's like for some other teachers in our district for that to be a requirement. A lot of folks have 90 minutes per day, and that is a requirement of having 90 minutes per week. So you can see where there's some difference in the schools. I'm going to scroll down to what the actual requirements per day. This is going to get a little complicated too, but you see here is they're asking for 100 minutes of literacy. I think we hit that through our ELA class and through the work that we do, particularly in history classes and even in our Spanish classes in 7th and 8th grade, and then even sometimes in our science classes. 65 minutes of ELA, and then with some ideas about intervention for small group intervention. Independent reading time, and then the 65 minutes. Now, if you're a 7th or 8th grade teacher, I know you're thinking, Ruben, you just sent out a schedule that has us at 60 minutes. And that's a negotiation that I'm entering with our region, saying that since we have an hour of intervention every day, and that those activities there's a range of activities that are happening in that time and a range of tutorials, I would argue that 5 minutes is actually, you get that 5 minutes back and then some. And so I'm comfortable with 60-minute classes because of how much time and the number of things our students are able to do in that other hour at the end of the day. And the time you see down here is, like I say, per week for teachers. So the 90 minutes to 100 minutes of teacher planning, we should surpass that pretty easily. The grade level teams, I'm not worried about that. We've actually already been surpassing that. But I think we might need to look at the number of times that our grade levels are meeting in order to make sure that we are protecting planning time. Looking at the content team times, which you've already looked at. To be continued on the school-wide PD per week. I did want you to see that this is a regional request, but I'm not interested in doing much of a change to what we've been doing, and we have definitely not been meeting 90 minutes per week. And then the continuation of O3s, I think we do a pretty good job of everyone having an O3, but you see that this is something the region is asking that everyone engages in a one-on-one meeting with a coach, with a department chair, with a thought partner, but at least once a week for 40 minutes. All right, and that pretty much does it for the basic information that I wanted to make sure to communicate. This innovation piece is just, it seems a little silly to talk about innovation and just me talking at you, and so that's something we're going to do more together. Okay, thanks so much for listening to all this.